Welcome to Flourish with Dr. B podcast, where we inspire people to flourish in their mind, body, and spirit. I'm Dr. B, and this is my honey, Ben.
So, here in the Hive, we share stories of resilience and wisdom and to help you live healthier, longer, and more meaningful lives. Today, we have a very, very special guest with us. We've both known her since our middle school days. Actually, Belinda's known her since the first grade. And so, B, if you can take it from there.
This special guest and I, we ended up unknowingly going to school in upstate New York in Albany. She at law school, me at graduate and medical school, and we bumped into each other at a bagel place, no less. I mean, go figure, right? Two Long Island girls bumping into each other at a bagel place in upstate New York. We kind of loosely kept in touch during then. And then during the pandemic, we kind of just rekindled our friendship and have been connected ever since. Now, Wendy has completely helped me, guided me. She's been my, as we call in medicine, curbside consult coach, life coach. And I'm really super proud of what she does. She has helped me through some rough times in my life since then, a surgery, trying to find creativity again, even my book writing, and most recently, my life quake. She's helped me kind of tease out what was happening there and how, and even this podcast has been said. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a very special friend and guest of mine, Wendy Schult, without a Z, and she is an authenticity coach. And I'd like her to tell all about her story and how she arrived there.
Yeah, so Wendy Schult without a Z. We stole the Z and put it on our name. Thanks for that. You're an authenticity coach, as Belinda said. You're a speaker, you're a podcast host, you've had quite a career. Tell us more about yourself and really your coaching practice and how it all came to fruition.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with the two of you, two of my favorite people in the world. So I have a coaching practice. It's called Keys to Authenticity, and I help high achievers figure out what's next. I help them come to their own definition of success. So what is success at this stage of career and this stage of life? And I work with my clients on the premise that nobody knows you better than yourself. So I don't provide the answers. I'm not a consultant. I'm your thinking partner. And the answers are within you. And I don't have the right answers. What I do is ask, hopefully, the right questions. So it's helping my clients who are generally quite self-aware, but it's like in scattered pockets. They know about their strengths and their weaknesses and sometimes how they get in their own way and what's important to them, but it's kind of disjointed. So it's to help them kind of weave a golden thread through all of these different parts so it makes clear sense to them and that they can express it to others. So it's really about being true to yourself at this stage of your life. People who have done really what they should and they've performed well, they've succeeded, and now they're at the stage of life where they want to be well.
Mm.
How I came to having this coaching practice is after law school, I spent 23 years at the financial counseling arm of Goldman Sachs, and I loved it. I loved working one-on-one with clients and their families. So I'm a very high touch, high service oriented coach, just like I was as a financial planner and financial counselor. And I love planning. I liked financial planning, but I love planning, and especially in regards to helping people get what they want. And in order for someone to get what they want, they have to know what that is. And I would say maybe 90% of people, if not more, really don't know what they want more than anything else, not just on a passing whim, what they want in such a way that they're willing to work for it or give up other things in order to have it. Um, so that's really what drew me to the coaching. What was the spark for the authenticity coach and having authenticity be a theme is my own experience of being really inauthentic, being an actress in my career. I spent the first 20 years of my profession working with clients and running a small team to service them. And my final 3.5 years were in a senior management position, heading a region of the firm. And I found myself feeling like an actress on the stage. I was performing very well, but inside my spirit was dying. And I felt kind of like a trained circus animal that was just doing what I was supposed to do, but it didn't feel good to me. And I certainly wasn't doing anything illegal or unethical or improper, but I wasn't really aligned with my values and what was really important to me. And it was really miserable and ultimately affecting of my health and just my well-being. So I want to help others who are motivated, driven, who have had great success to be in a place where they can be well and not just show well.
I have to say, and I know I speak for Belinda here as well, how apropos that you, as the authenticity coach, just shared that vulnerability about yourself. That is the ultimate authenticity. And there was such power in that vulnerability to say, like, hey, I had to look myself in the mirror and get over myself and realize that this is not really what I want. And I'm not being the person I want to be. So not only kudos to you for figuring that out and then subsequently creating an entirely new purpose in that. But thanks for sharing it because that means a lot. I know to us, and I'm sure it's meaning a lot to whoever is watching this right now or listening to this. So thank you for that, Wendy. I know we both appreciate that. And that sort of brings me to my next question, which is, we live in very interesting times with AI sort of being a major player in all of our lives and of the work that we do. And what I keep hearing from everybody as there are new AI experts in every which direction we hear people clamoring for, it's amazing, but now we need to make sure we have our authenticity and we don't lose that as we're all using AI. So that seems pretty industry agnostic. Everybody's talking about we need to get back to our authenticity. But you, as the authenticity coach, I'm wondering who are your ideal clients that you're working with specifically around authenticity in the ways that you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. And just before I answer that, too, just to comment on something you said about being. And there's a lot of focus, certainly in the business world and for many of us in our society, about having and about doing. And I really encourage my clients to back up and focus first and foremost about being the type of person you want to be, the traits and qualities, and even how you want to feel. And from there, the doing, what are you going to do, your actions, your performance, and then from there, the having, whether it's the relationship or the house or the title or what have you. But to answer your question, my ideal client and who I think I'm best suited to serve is someone who's a top performer. So is performing very well, has risen, maybe even higher than he or she thought they would when they first set out or aimed to. They're in mid to late career, maybe even quote unquote retiring, as to what's next, but somebody who is pretty far into their career and who is at a point in life where they have done what they should, and now they have this appetite to explore what's next. And there's a desire to do not only what they are highly competent at doing and been praised for and been paid well for, but what lights them up, what energizes them, what really uses their true natural gifts and their go-to kind of talents, and something that they care about. Now, no, we're not all out, to save the world, but something that they do value and that they do really feel good about. And it's someone who is willing to look inside, to really examine what are my values? What is it that I believe? What are the choices that I have made? And to be willing to grow, really to look at them in a new light and work with someone and value working with a coach who's going to go deep with them, who they can trust, and they can trust this person, certainly because of confidentiality. I'm like the vault, that's the world I came from, but also hopefully trust me because I get it. I understand the pressures of being in a certain type of position. I understand that if there's a certain degree of wealth, a lot of hair grows on that, and you can't just, quit jobs and pull kids out of school and that type of thing. So they value having that relationship with someone who's really going to dig in with them and gets it.
It almost harkens back to what you shared about yourself. You were your ideal client to start this whole thing. And because, like you said, now they have a level of trust with you because you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk for yourself and subsequently for them. And that's beautiful. And I guess that sort of leads into my next question, our next question. What do you love most about what you do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really love working with people one-on-one in a very personalized. I'm kind of like, they say go big or go home. I don't have to go big, but I'm like go deep or go home. So it's a real close relationship. I'm in that inner circle. So I love that. I love understanding what makes people tick. I've been studying personality types since the 1990s when it had nothing to do with my profession at the time, or seemingly nothing to do with it. But what I particularly love, and I think I mentioned it before, is I love it when somebody gets what they want. I am not a particularly envious or jealous person. If somebody's a good person and they have that clarity as to what they want and they're willing to do and they go for it and they achieve it, whatever it is, it really thrills me. So there's a real motivation, I guess almost like a selfish motivation, in that is very satisfying to me. And what I love working with clients is seeing a transformation, seeing a small change in a belief that can have a remarkable impact on their life. I'll just give an example. I had a client who was a founder of a firm working, you know, easy 6.5 days a week and at the top of his game, and was overwhelmed, highest level of excellence. And it's like, what are you going to do? The answer is not you work 7 days a week. Something has to change, and it has to do with discernment and selecting of what business, where you're going to spend your time and energy. It has to do with delegation. There's a lot of things that tactically have to happen, or at least some of those things. But it's not going to happen if you have a fundamental belief, which he did, was successful people work hard. Now, he was successful and he worked hard. He was able to come to a little bit of a different belief of successful people work smart, right? So that's not, successful people lie on the beach and visualize and then the money comes. That's just not where he's going, right? But it was just enough of a change that now he could work like 5.5 days a week, not 6.5, right? But it's that kind of a thing. It's helping people to see that what had served them exceptionally well may not serve them now going forward. If in the first, in your 20s and your 30s and into your 40s, you had this way of operating where you're the first in and you're the first out, you're probably going to be pretty successful if you're competent while you're there. Um, and that is a way that served. This person may have risen up through the organization or grown their book of business. But then there comes a point where many say, this is not sustainable. This modus operandi is not sustainable at 55 the way it was. I can outwork you when I'm 25. When I'm 55, it's like, well, I got to save a little energy for the trip home. So where of getting to the point of saying like, okay, I value, let's say, security is my top value. And that's for a lot of people. But that definition of what security is used to be financial security, and now it's physical security. It goes from fiscal to physical, where security used to be about wealth, but now it's also about health because I have more wealth and my health is not quite as robust, even if it's good, you know. So helping people see that other choices are out there. And it's not for me to say what's the best, but help them to brainstorm because there may have been options, possibilities, choices that they either scoffed at in the past. I know that's the case with me, or they just didn't see because they weren't focused on them, or were completely unknown. They weren't available. They weren't even out there. So helping people to be able to recognize them for themselves, of having a little bit, being a little more open, but having that based in what's important to them, not in what I say is important or what their family of origin said or the profession that they've been in for decades. So it's so fulfilling to see really a transformation happen on, again, what on things that are kind of on the margin and seemingly small.
Makes so much sense when you put it all that way, and we see the authentic love that you have for it. So that's really great, and thank you for sharing that. I guess I have one last question, and that is just we're going to ask this of all of our guests on the
Okay.
Flourish with Dr. B podcast. Um, do you have one quote or idea that really best summarizes your position in life?
Yeah, I think my own well-being and also in supporting my clients, I come back again and again to the Gandhi quote where he said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony.
Mm.
And so I've seen for myself, and I see for many of my clients, it's not that they're saying one thing and doing something else. These are people who are high integrity, very reliable. So what they're saying, they're keeping their promises, they're in alignment with what they're purporting. It's where there's a misalignment is between what they're saying to themselves, i.e., what they're believing, and what they're saying out loud. So it can be they're thinking to themselves, this is absolutely ridiculous that, we're carrying forth this agenda or whatever it is. Or, and yet, the marching orders are being carried out because they're working in a place that is not aligned with their values and not necessarily in a bad way. It might be they value autonomy and innovation, and the place is very structured and has a certain systematic way to do it, or vice versa. Or it might be somewhere that values profits ethically, right? But values profits over the highest level of excellence. It's got to be satisfactory and safe, but it doesn't have to be, and they value the highest level of excellence over that additional margin, or things like that. So they're in a place where what they're thinking is not aligned on the other side with what they're saying and doing. And again, there's going to be some of that in life. We don't, somebody shows us a very, very ugly picture of a baby. I think it's okay. I'm not the Gerber, baby scout. Okay. If I say, that's a beautiful baby, right? That's okay. That's okay, right? There's going to be some of that I think is appropriate. That's kindness. But when we start doing it basically all day, every day, it's really, it wears away your energy. So that is really, or just even that feeling miserable, exhausted, run down, and then somebody says, how are you? I'm great. I'm thinking, great. I haven't been great in six months, but I'm saying I'm great, right? That's the kind of thing of we're not in alignment because we can't be. We can't say that at work. But we're in a position that's really not healthy and sustainable. So I think that if what I believe and what I say and my actions, if they're more or less in sync, I'm going to feel healthy and I'm going to feel that it's sustainable. So I think that really is. And I would just say, clarity and being intentional are probably two of the most important things. Being clear about your values, being clear about your preferences, being clear about your deal breakers, because, ideal is great, but what really are the must-haves? And there's a lot of talk about boundaries, and people, that's kind of like a buzzword now. And boundaries kind of become this thing of like what you are and aren't allowed to do. But boundaries, my boundary is where I step back. And that's where I need to be clear as to what I will and will not tolerate, what I will and will not do, what my intention is for this, what I want to have happen. And again, that goes to my thinking and my saying and my doing. So I think that alignment, but we need to be clear about ourselves and clear about our intentions in order to carry that out.
A beautiful quote, and we see why you would adhere to that in your life. Thank you for sharing that, Wendy. And I mean, yes, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say before you asked Wendy where we can find her, having worked with Wendy, I see all of the things that she's saying. Oh, yes, she does that. Oh, yes. And you really have this knack of pointing out a possible blind spot, possible things that, I find myself when I talk to you, I'm like, well, maybe. And then when we get off the phone, I'm like, maybe she's right. I should like go explore this. I remember one thing, and this is all not just corporate and everything, but one thing that you said to me that I still carry to this day is remember when I had to get that appendectomy, the elective procedure, and the doctor was like, well, we don't want you to walk around too much, but we also don't want you to lay around too much. And you were like, B, you should go back to your creativity, to painting, because creativity is so important to the soul. And I have to tell you, like, I'm a physician. I know that. I know it lowers your cortisol level, blah, blah, blah. But I really believe that helped me to heal better, because during my time of like pain during recovery, I literally didn't feel it because I was so excited about taking up the paintbrush again. And it was you and another person who is a local artist who loves to paint, and I love it. Yeah, but both of you, between the both of you and your the intellectual piece on your part, saying how, this is good. Creativity is good for your soul. Creativity is going to help you. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. But when I did it, I just fell into falling in love with it again. And quite honestly, I used that time when you told me that in a lot of my workshops as well. And I really thank you for that, because that opened my whole door again of when I was younger, like when we were probably even before we met, where I used to paint with my father, and it was so, but that's another nuance to your coaching, is what I'm saying, is that it's not just about career points and bullet points. It's about the person as a whole. And that was my authentic self. And I had shelved that off to the side for years, like 20 plus years, maybe even 30. Um, so what Wendy says is what she does. Like, it's really true. You were able to really tease out in person's a tapestry of what might be missing and can be reinforced, and what, okay, this is a strong point, but we have too much of that. Let's bring something else in. So I really feel that when we speak and work together, for lack of a better term, but I'm really just thrilled and proud of you of what you have created in your life. Uh, when we first reconnected during the pandemic, I was so grateful, and I still am, because we were so close in elementary school, middle school, and then in high school, we kind of started doing our own thing, and then fate has it, we go to post grad school upstate. But I'm just glad that we've reconnected and we're able to support each other in our endeavors and keep on coming back to each other and kind of just listening to each other and supporting each other. So I really thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And you talk about creativity, and one of the thing, and as a girl, and a lot of times I'll do that with clients when they're really trying to figure out what's next for them. And this is in a profit-making profession, right? What's next? And looking at, even though they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, looking at, what did you love to do as a kid?
Mhm.
And really going back to that. And you hear all kinds of crazy things. And not, I had one client, and he loved to hunt squirrels. Okay. Now he's a man who's 60 years old. He's not going to go out and start hunting squirrels where he lives, obviously. But was what about it did he love? And it was that freedom and the being outside. What is it that allows you to really recharge, and in a way that's healthy, not in an escapism way, but actually release stress and recharge? Because most of the clients that I work with, they're essentially seeking one of two things, if these aren't the exact same thing. And one is, they say, I want to be at peace. I want peace of mind. Some of them say, I want to sleep through the night. Others say, I want to stop ruminating. Others say, whatever it might be, anxiety over. I want not be so stressed at work. I want to be at peace, at peace. Or they're saying, I want to feel freedom. I want to feel liberation. And a lot of times I think, whether it's the creativity for other, and that's the same for me, is more in the creative realm. Other people, it's being outdoors and being connected with nature, or it might be, doing something musical or moving their body and dancing or whatever it is. Like, what is going to give you that? And you need to have that. You don't have to have it through work. You could do something that's just moderately satisfying, and then have time and energy to do what really lights you up outside of work. So long as you're not doing something that's totally dragging you down, right? Or some people are fortunate enough they can make their living actually doing the thing that lights them up. But the puzzle can be put together in a lot of different ways. But I'm a big fan of creativity. I come from, I guess, a work ethic family, and certainly where I grew up, in my career, always feeling that, and for me to be worthy, I need to be working in that I'm productive. Now, the working might be I'm ironing down in the basement, or I'm making a list of clothes I'm going to buy for myself or whatever. But like somehow being that busy beaver working, that if I'm just being and doodling and coloring and making needlepoint canvases, that's not, especially if I throw it away. I draw something, I throw it away. It's not like I'm designing something that's going to be used for something, that's somehow a waste. Um, and I've really come to understand that it's not.
It's
That
beautiful.
is great stuff, Wendy, and really useful for all of us. And thank you. And to that point, I know people may want to reach out to you and find you. So where can they do that?
So they can reach out to me. I have a website for my coaching practice. It's www.keys, Keys, 2 authenticity.com. I also have a podcast. It's been out for about a year and a half now. Every Friday, there's a new episode, and it's called The Authenticity Coach. So those are two best places. And my contact information is on my website, my email and cell.
Fantastic. And we'll be sure we put that in the show notes as well for everybody.
So yes, before we end, I don't want to end, but before we end, I love talking to Wendy. I wish I could talk to Wendy all day. We'd like to ask you, the audience, what we're calling the flourish flash. Sorry, flourish flash. It's like an aha moment or a light bulb moment or your inspiration spark. And if you had one during this episode, put in the comments or maybe put it in your social media and tag us or tag both of us or add the episode link and be sure to follow Wendy's podcast. It's a wealth of knowledge and insight and information. And before we buzz off or fly off, as we call it, I too have in the show notes or in the bio, if you have any other questions about where to find us, everything's in there in a link. So be sure to find that. So until next time in the Hive, be kind and flourish fully. Thank you again, Wendy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.